Model T. Well, back then, you see, the wheels had wooden spokes, like wagon wheels or buggy wheels would have, see. Anyhow, this old dog, he would always run along and just grab at the front wheel all the time, you see. Just raise Cain while that car was passing. One day, in grabbing at that front wheel, he made connection, and he actually grabbed the spoke in that wheel. Well, it liked to wring his neck off, you see, like that, right quick. He got up from there yelping and crawled himself back up in the yard, and he never would bother one anymore.
I would blame her out. Oh, I see. Well, like people at Flat Rock, would they go to Fredonia before they'd ever go to Princeton? Was Fredonia the place where they would go?
Yes. Yes, they seldom ever went to Princeton around here. As long back in that day and time when Fredonia was quite a town back then. They used to have a drugstore, and we had, at one time there, had as many as 5 doctors in Fredonia.
I saw that in the paper. I couldn't believe it.
And we had, I don't know, 4 or 5 grocery stores, and clothing stores, 2 clothing stores that I know of. And, well, we had the flour mill there. We had just about anything that you have in any other town, you know, Fredonia. It was a good trading center, but people around here, of course, naturally, they had to go to Princeton to take, we never had a tobacco factory out there. We had to go to Princeton, take your tobacco off. Then you had to go to Princeton to pay your taxes and things like that. So people around here back that early, they didn't go to Princeton a lot because of course, the fact that the distance, and it was all dirt, rocky, hilly roads that would wear you out. If you was going to go to Princeton and back, you'd get up and get started by daylight and wouldn't get back until dark, you see. And so they wasn't too much traveling between here and Princeton there back in the early days.
What about churches? Were there very many churches in Flat Rock, or did you go again to Fredonia or something? Just one. And what was it? Was that a Baptist church or?
Presbyterian.
Presbyterian, right next door.
Yeah.
Well, Presbyterians must have settled here early. And I noticed the earliest church in Crittenden County is a Presbyterian church. They must have been settled real early.
Yeah, Piney Fork, the earliest one in Crittenden.
Yes.
Yes, with Piney Fork. And I'll tell you where that, now if you wanted to go back to the early, really, the early church days.
No, I don't. Go on. What about Piney Fork?
The earliest church in this part of the country, anywhere that I know anything about, was built out here at what they call the old Livingston graveyard. They never would call it a cemetery.
The one on the hill? The one that sits up on the hill?
Yeah, it's on the hill to the left of the road as you go up the road. So on the hill back over there. Mm-hmm. No, you're thinking about the one at 91.
Yeah, I'm thinking one on 91. Now, which one are you talking?
The one I'm meaning is about halfway between here and Fredonia.
Oh.
After you go over the, what we call a Ray Hill out here, right down there at that curve, just as you start into that curve, that road turning to the left goes just a little ways up there to the old Livingston Cemetery. Well, back in the early days, they had what they call, they didn't call them churches. They called it a meeting house. They had an old log meeting house there that was built in a hexagon shape, 6 sides, you see, of logs. No floor. The benches were logs that were split open, smoothed off. The pegs in there for legs, you see. And no floor there. fireplace, no chimney. They built a fire right in the center of that building. They left the roof, when it being hexagon shaped, they left the roof open right up in the center, built it up like that, and built their fire on the ground here, you see, and let the smoke go out through that hole in the roof. And they didn't have any roadway in there to it at that time. People walked in there. Maybe some of them might come horseback, you know, right through the woods. And they carried their guns to church with them. And the old preachers back them days, they used to preach for an hour and a half or better. And while the people were inside worshiping, there'd be a certain amount of them that'd be outside with their guns to keep the Indians off while they were in there worshiping, you see. Well, now that was the first meeting place that was known of in this part of the country, and from it, it wasn't of any particular denomination, you see. Mm-hmm. From it sprang the Bethlehem Church. Right. It was Cumberland Presbyterian Church. It's at Crider now. It used to be out here in front of Fred Dalton, if you know where Fred Dalton lives. Anyway, that church sprang from that, and all these other churches of different denominations around here sprang from that. So, Piney Fork, speaking of it, they, from that, they moved to what they call Old Centerville. It was right about where, close in there, about where 91 goes out of, you go out of Cowell County into Crittenden. Mm-hmm. Right in that neighborhood right there somewhere. That was Old Centerville. Mm-hmm. And then later on, as population moved, or the farmland were being settled, why they moved from there to Piney Fork. So that made Piney Fork the oldest, I guess, in Crittenden County.
Gilbert, this church that you're talking about right up the road here, on the 70 off the road, is there any type of remains left?
There's nothing there but the cemetery anymore.
But you couldn't tell if there were a church at one time?
No. They moved from that. From there, they moved their moving meeting place down on the creek, which would be back over in the field to the right of the highway as you go out now. Down on the creek, and that was known as Livingston Church. And from it, of course, that's where Walnut Grove down here, Walnut Grove Baptist Church, that's where they sprang from, was from that church out there. Flat Rock and Good Spring and all of these other Cumberland Presbyterian churches around here sprang from the old Bethlehem church that I was talking about out there. This was, the church up here was organized in 1865. Well, I guess you noticed that, you know.